Well, welcome back. I'm glad that you joined us, and I hope you brought some of your friends to see the second segment of a very important topic we're talking about. We have two local bloggers. We have C.J. Summers, and we also have Billy Dennis, who are what I call citizen journalists who have views and opinions, and they send them out and they come back in terms of other people. In fact, as I would look at it, you're kind of like an electronic town meeting where people come and express their views and that type of a thing. And do you kind of see yourself as kind of like an electronic town meeting, except you have no walls or borders? You can go not only within the little building that the meeting is, but go into the total community, state, and the nation.
Well, I think CJ's blog more than mine these days. He has a ton of regular commenters, much more than I do.
Okay.
And it's a lot of fun because you get a lot of different viewpoints that way, especially when you talk about city issues or school issues. There are always people on either side of the issue that have a discussion. You know, as they leave comments, then the person will not only comment on the original post, but will comment on what the person before them commented on, and so it'll be a back and forth discussion.
I think
it could be real interesting.
I think that Facebook is taking over a lot of that.
Okay.
I cross-post to Facebook and to Twitter all the time. There are two different websites, and I have to manage comments on both websites now, Twitter and Facebook and Peoria Pundit. It's a lot of trouble to do.
I would imagine it's pretty time consuming, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
About how many hours would you estimate, either a day or a week or whatever, however you want to block it, you might spend doing all of these things that you're involved in?
At minimum, I spend about an hour a day.
1 hour a day?
1 hour a day.
Is that all? It takes me that long to read the newspaper.
Well, that's on the day.
You haven't seen how he types.
Listen, I'll get into that later. But I can spend all day at the computer updating all my blogs, updating Twitter, updating Facebook to keep everything well organized. The 1 day is the one hour out of every day. That's just minimal. That's just reading without doing any additional commenting or blogging.
Well, I'd be interested because you hit two topics that certainly are active topics as far as I'm concerned, and many people I talk to in the community, is city government and our school district.
Yeah.
What are some of the interesting things that either you've received in terms of feedback or that you've sent out regarding some of the thoughts you have regarding what's going on in our community, from budget problems to crime problems to school problems? Can you pick any of those things?
All three of them are related. They are. The city problems, people think that the school district and the city are one and the same, and they and
sometimes the city thinks that too,
and sometimes the city does too.
And that may not be all bad.
Yeah, well, maybe it may be true. Now, and the crime problem, well, that's related to the school problem, because you have uneducated.
For the young ones, but all these older guys who have been out of school, either by graduation or dropout, I can't attribute District 150 for a 30 or 40-year-old man shooting at each other or robbing somebody.
At some point, you have to maintain responsibility for yourself.
Absolutely.
But when you're talking about 14, 15, 16-year-old people who should be in school, who should be supervised to some extent, who aren't, that's an education problem, and that is something that needs to be addressed with a good alternative school. And a lot of the city's problems are due to the crime problem, and then the city wants to control the schools want to just keep the kids in line, and it's a circular thing. And I think that there probably does need to be more city involvement in the schools, not just the city telling the schools what to do, but the city financing some of the school solutions. CJ probably disagrees with that.
I do disagree with that. I think there's a reason why you have separate municipal bodies. You know, the District 150 is its own taxing body, and the city of Peoria is its own taxing body. And so I think
with
that
their
the
own
school
executive
district
called a city manager or a school superintendent, where they have professional people who supposedly understand municipal government to run the city, and a superintendent who has a PhD in education administration. So to me, it's like the difference between a dentist and a doctor. There's two different areas of responsibility that requires different skills.
That's right. That's the way I look at it. And the thing that drives me crazy is how the city. I don't think that the city should be sending money over to the schools, but by the same token, I also don't think the city should be taking money from the schools.
Yes.
Which is what they do through TIF districts and growth cells and all these kinds of different agreements where they want to take the increment. They want to increase property values, but then they're going to take that increment and use it all for the city. So they're taking the money that would have gone to the school district and using it for city services. I just don't think that that's the best use of taxpayer money.
No,
is
absolutely not.
Them taking money from the schools,
Well,
and from the county and from the park district and so forth.
Well, you've used that word that, again, I'm having problems with as I've gotten older. Everything now seems to be around money. Money. And I was in school in the 50s and the 60s. And our kids could read, they could write. Most of them graduated. My mom and dad and people before me, many of which went to one school houses, and some of us who were black weren't even able to go to school. And they seem to have a much basic understanding of reading and writing. And today we always seem to need more money. I can remember back, not personally, but reading about a one-room schoolhouse where they had a number of grades. Now we complain because we only have 9th graders, but we got 25 of them. And we think we only need 20, or we need a smart board and so forth. I just sometimes wonder what's happened to just the basic reading, writing, and arithmetic, and learning those kinds of things, some of which is the responsibility of the parent to teach. And we even now have pre-K. There was no such thing as a pre-K when I was coming to school. When you got old enough, you went to kindergarten. And you fit in, and you did as well as you could do, and most of us did pretty well. So, whether the city gives more money to the school district, I think if Gates, who's a billionaire, dropped $5 billion on the school district, we wouldn't see a whole lot of necessary improvements, at least that's my opinion. Or if we gave out a whole lot of money to city government, I don't think that our quality of life in terms of city services, but I mean, that's my opinion. I don't think crime is as big of an issue as our newspaper and the media. I don't think that the average citizen is under attack. Most of us aren't being broken into. Most of us aren't being shot at. But we all have fear. We spend more money on burglar bars and all kinds of devices today than when I was growing up. We used to leave our bicycle on the front porch. We used to leave our windows up at night when it was hot and those kinds of things. And somehow we as citizens have kind of not become responsible for ourselves or our children. We didn't have curfews when I was a kid. Your old man was your curfew. He told you when you be in, and it didn't take a policeman to have to take time to run me home or to write me up or a judge to give me a citation. Those kind of, I just think that, we run asunder in this community and almost in this nation.
Well, you've touched on a lot of things. One is parental involvement. That's important. And you don't see as much of that nowadays as you used to, so that contributes to the school problem. Another thing is the amount of intervention or interference, or however you want to look at it, that the federal government is having in education. Through No Child Left Behind and a lot of other requirements, they have to have extra positions just to fill out all the paperwork, and all of that costs money.
Absolutely.
And so then there's all the testing, and they have to try to make sure that they meet these goals or they won't get their federal funds. And so it just ends up being a huge bureaucracy, and getting lost in there somewhere is the teaching part. And that you talked about. My mom went to a one-room schoolhouse where she was in with several other grades, and she got a great education. And I think that's what it all boils down to, is the is the interaction between the student and the teacher. You know, when my kids go to District 150 schools, and we always make it a point to meet their teacher, because that's where the real learning takes place, is between the teacher and the student. And I think that the things that interfere with that are problems with discipline. When my oldest daughter was in the younger grades, she did great as far as her schoolwork was, but she always felt bad about the kind of discipline problems that were happening in the classroom, and it made her feel uneasy and stuff. And now she's in a middle school where they don't have discipline problems, and she's doing great. The only thing she's worried about is getting all her homework done, and that's what she should be worried about. So I think what Billy's saying about having an alternative school for, because you don't want to just kick kids out of school who are behavior problems. They still need to be educated, but you don't want them disrupting classes of kids who aren't behavior problems.
Right. If just like what CJ said, his daughter was in a school when she was young in which there was discipline problems. Those kids need to be taken out and taught in a bit more intensely, with a lot more hands-on, and let the other kids get a better education, and let the kids who are determined to try to fight getting their education, teach them separately. I think that's probably for the best.
Well, there have always been discipline problems, but not serious type that we have today, or probably to the degree that we have today. And having been a high school English teacher and a high school principal, I have some real experience in terms of how to educate and how not to educate, and I have and having been a former city councilman and a former department head and an assistant city manager, I have some real views there. And I really feel that we as citizens expect our government to do things that we used to do ourselves.
Right, exactly.
And as we increase the demands and expectations, it goes with the cost. Same way with schools, when we demand that our schools are doing some things that at one time we as parents were responsible for. There goes our cost. And so, you know, we're kind of in a circle. We complain about how much our taxes are and how much our government is spending and so forth, but a lot of the spending, in my opinion, are on things that probably they shouldn't have to do, but almost expected to do. We can't afford to have a policeman on every corner, but people get concerned that we're cutting back in police force. 20 years ago, I bet we didn't have as many police as we do today, and probably had more people here than we do today. So, you know, how does that jive? That you need more police today than you did 20 years ago when there were less people. Well, the same way with the school district. There are less students in District 150 today than there were 20 years ago, but yet we need more teachers or administrators or all these other doodads and so forth. But yet nobody's pleased with the services that they're getting.
You know, when you talk about people wanting government to do things for them that they should be doing for themselves, I have a perfect example of that. I ran for city council this last time for at-large, and I was at a meeting once where they asked all the council candidates, what are you going to do about Comcast? Comcast's rates are too high. And just about everybody, well, not everybody, unfortunately, but most of the candidates said, you know what, that's not government's problem to regulate Comcast's rates. If you don't like how much you're paying for cable, cancel it. And that's what I did personally. You know, I thought that the rates were getting too high and I couldn't afford it anymore, so now I just get my TV over the air. I don't need government to come in and get the rates down for cable. So I think that's, people do expect the city and the school district to do things for them. In the schools, they want the schools to raise their kids for them. They want them to take care of daycare and feed them breakfast and have after-school things for them. And
latchkey programs and things like that. My latchkey was come home and get that backyard cut and get that garage cleaned up. My latchkey was earning a little money instead of Dad give me type of an attitude, which kids have. I mean, a lot of kids, what's the word I'm trying to think when you have responsibilities at home and you got a little pay for it? It'll come to me. But
allowance,
right. I had an allowance. And when the allowance was gone, it was over. I mean, when my little $5 or $10 that I got was gone, and again, that taught me how to manage finances. It wasn't just a gimme, or I didn't expect my mom or dad, every time they went to the mall or went someplace, they're going to bring me something back, nor would I even think about falling out in a grocery store because I wanted something, and they said, no, I don't think so.
But
So
see,
society has changed.
But exactly. You're touching on another issue. See, you had a mom and a dad. You had a two-parent household, and a lot of households today only have one parent.
But more
and that's
have
why
two
you've
than-
got to have the latchkey stuff because they're at work. So it does.
They worked when I was growing up. I'm going to be honest. You know, we keep talking about this single-family households. Certainly there are more today, but there are more people today. There's more married people today. There's more, anything you think of, there's more today because we have 300 million people living here compared to what we used to. But, I mean, there were men who died in wars. There were men who died. There were men who left home and got divorced. But there was an uncle or there was a neighbor who stepped in. So even though, and I tell men all the time, anybody can be a daddy, but it takes a real man to be a father. And you may not necessarily be the father of your own blood child, but the boy across the street whose dad now might be over in the Mideast or maybe working in Chicago at a corporate office. And so a lot of things we need to do. If you see a lot down the street, hey, son, when I get home tomorrow, I want to see that lot looking better. Today, we expect code man to come out, write a ticket, and you know, get the courts involved. And in the meantime, the weeds are still getting higher and higher. And then we get a private contractor and give him $200 to cut. I mean, as I said, I just think that, and I'm going to be quiet because I'm here interviewing you, and you're not here. But I'm just glad that the two of you have some views, and I'm glad to know that you have access to an electronic media to share your views and to get feedback.
Well, it's the thing about blogging is everyone has an opinion, but if you get online, you can share that opinion with millions of people.
Right.
And that can be quite fun. When I first started this, I would write about everything and anything, and I didn't care. I just wrote it, and I just let it out there, and about a few months later, I realized, well, I really shouldn't be calling people by that name. I really should tone it down a little bit. And like I said earlier, I enjoy more freedom of expression. I have more First Amendment rights as a blogger than I ever did writing an editorial for or an opinion column for any newspaper I ever worked for in my life. It's because writing on the web is freedom. It is, and I can write anything I want to, but I limit what I write, and I don't always put my full opinion out there. But I still enjoy more freedom than I ever did writing for somebody else. It's exhilarating, and it's fun. I recommend blogging for everybody.
But I guess what's getting my mind, it can be destructive as well as it can be beneficial.
I think that
particularly if there's no way that you can really trace or hold accountable or resposible a person who's sending things out.
Yeah, you can
that
trace
scares me.
Well, and that's a good point.
You can trace a blogger though. If there's some guy out there who's being destructive, you can find out who it is.
Well, let's talk about, you know, blogging under our own names and blogging under a pseudonym. You know, I mean, the one thing that we do is we put our own names out there. When we blog, everybody knows it's me, and you know, my name's in the phone book, and
those
anybody
that
can
know
call me
you,
up.
right? Yeah, those that know you.
Well,
I didn't know you until today, in a sense.
Well,
if I lived in Indianapolis, I wouldn't know.
Well, but I'm a real person, is what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm not just blogging under, you know, Joe Blogger.
He has his name on his blog. I have my name on my blog. We both have our photographs on our blog. I don't push I even publish my phone number on my blog, so people can track me down. But you can track down even an anonymous blogger. You're going to be, you can be tracked down even if you remain anonymous, because the blogging company has to keep track of who's hiring it. They can track down your URL and see, well, who owns this URL, and they can track you down that way.
Well, if they track you down, so what? Is there a punishment if you're on there doing something irresponsible?
If you're doing
or
something
dangerous?
illegal,
If you're libeling anybody, you can be held responsible.
What does libeling mean? What does that mean?
Libel is
It's like slander, but it's written.
Yeah, libel is written slander. Anything that's provably
Give me an
untrue.
example of what it could be. Like by saying the mayor is a dumbo,
No.
or the superintendent is stupid. I mean, is that libel?
Nope, that's not
No.
libel. But
Okay.
saying the mayor is a stupid crook is libelous because you're
Saying Obama is Hitler.
well. That's probably not libelous. It's probably it's ridiculously stupid.
I know, but I'm just
But
saying.
if you say the mayor, or let's
But
not
if
use
you
the
say-
mayor,
I've heard
let's say the
people say
senator
that.
is a pedophile, that would be
Yes,
libel.
That would be libelous. if you say Obama is a
Fascist?
Well, if you say he's Hitler and he's a crook, yeah, that's probably libelous, but you're probably not going to win because the most courts say that you should say anything you want to about the president. But if you say
And
the
believe
mayor
me,
is a crook,
unfortunately they are.
if you say the mayor is a crook, that's probably going to be held to be libelous because the mayor is. You're saying he's a crook. You can't say that. I mean,
Unless
that's
you have
something
evidence
that's
to back it
unless you
up.
have evidence. That's false. You can say that he's no good, but you can't say he's a no good crook because that's a statement of fact that's provably untrue. You can
Well,
be
a
taken to
crook
court.
is a word that implies illegality.
Right, exactly.
Okay, but suppose you say that so and so is stupid.
That's fine. I have the right to think that Mayor Artis is stupid. I'm not saying Mayor Artis is stupid.
Right? No, but
But
I'm just
saying that, yeah,
I
you
mean,
have the right.
stupidity is not illegal or against the law.
Right.
Right.
But if you call a person a pedophile, there's a law against
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
Or a scammer or those kinds of things.
Right.
But let's say that you just use some derogatory term that really isn't illegal, but it certainly
Well,
can be destructive
then-
to that person.
There are people in this town
That's
who do
freedom
that.
of speech, unfortunately.
And I don't know
fortunately.
I don't know anybody who has a blog who's saying that, whose blog continues, whose blog continues past a certain amount of interest, because people look at this and go, oh, geez, that's Joe Blow calling the mayor a crook again. I'm not reading this blog anymore. Do you know any blogger who does that?
No.
Nobody.
Well, as I said, maybe I shouldn't say it, but I feel the same way about Rush Limbaugh and what he says every day, or Glenn Beck. I mean, some of the things that they say, as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah, well.
and they have a right to say it, and I defend their right to say it, but I just get tired of that
hearing
one
it.
opinion all the time, and they have millions of people
I know.
who
Well, there's lots of other
follow
radio
them.
stations. Listen to something else.
Well, there's
NPR has talk all day now on WCBU. You can listen to them.
Yes,
all
they
day.
do. They have WCBU, and I do listen to WCBU. I listen to them quite a lot. But yeah, that's fine. You
I'm
can
glad
be
to hear
concerned
about
about that.
blogging, and I can certainly see its benefits, but I can also see its dangers. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that the two of you have shared your views, not only about blogging, but even about some of the issues and things of that type. But as I said, we live in a society today where, and this whole thing called freedom, and being a black man, I guess, I have suffered from a lot of lack of freedoms.
Yeah.
A lot of people keep talking about, is it the fourth freedom or whatever it is, the right to bear arms and so forth. Well, I wish some people were as concerned about equality and freedom for all to be whatever they can be as much as they are to carry weapons and that type of thing. Again, I may have to have you fellas come back because we've just kind of been at the tip of the blog,
Oh,
the
yeah,
tip of
we've
the iceberg.
We've got a whole lot of
But,
other issues to cover
Right,
here.
right.
I
A
mean,
lot of issues that we can cover, and I would encourage you fellows to continue to carry them through your blog, and I would invite all of you who are watching tonight to find their blog, to interact with their blog, see what they have to say, and share your opinion. This is Andre Bohannon again saying, so glad that you joined us. Hope you heard something to stimulate you, to motivate you, and hopefully you'll participate in blogs if you know how or have such an interest. May God bless each and every one of you until I see you next week. Good night.
We're here now with our good friend Danny Davis, who not only is a board member for PCCEO, but also works with the Memphis Grizzlies during the NBA season. But he's here on behalf of the annual Mitchell J.J. Anderson basketball camp, All-Star Camp, and the first there's going to be a luncheon. Tell us about that.
Thanks, Dennis. Yes, on August 8th, Dennis, we'll have our our 13th annual luncheon. It's a fundraiser we do in the community. This year, the proceeds will go to a senior meals program, which is a component of PCCEO. Every other year, we alternate between senior meals and Carver Center. This year, we have a distinguished guest coming in, a retired player from the NBA. His name is Sam Big Smooth Perkins. Everybody knows him as Big Smooth. 17 years in the league. He's done a lot of things. Top 40 players ever play in college basketball. Played with Michael Jordan at North Carolina. Was there actually before he was, and he has a lot of accomplishments that he has fulfilled over his illustrious 17-year career, and still doing things with Special Olympics and other things as a legend of one of the NBA players.
The luncheon itself is being held August 8th. Can you tell us when and where?
Sure. It's at the Paradise. It's going to start at about noon. We'll be there 11:30 to about 1:30. And as we have in different years, we have a keynote speaker, which is Sam Perkins. Dave Snell will be our MC. And this year, our outstanding Lifetime Achievement Award goes none other than McFarland A. Bragg from Community Action Agency, better known as PCCEO.
How much are tickets, and how can they get tickets?
Tickets are $500 for a table of 10, or individual tickets of 60. Obviously, you can call Paradise. That's where we're having it at Paradise in the grand ballroom they have on site. You can call Paradise, or you can also call PCCEO, and somebody here will definitely help you purchase a ticket or a table.
Tell us, what is the purpose of the basketball camp to begin with?
The camp itself, which will start the next day, which will be the 9th through the 12th, it's basically for kids to have fun, but we do a little more than that. We get physicals. We have Children's Network help us get physicals for the kids. A lot of times there's different diseases or illnesses that are not found with their regular physical that you need to go to school, i.e. Teenage asthma is the leading death of teenagers, diabetes, and also heart murmurs are three of the things that we have commonly found over the past few years. We do life skills, asked about different scenarios, different life situations. Again, this year, probably Michael Vick will come up because he asked about decisions he made, and now he's making very good decisions and is getting rewarded for it financially. So those are things. We have educational from a dentist that comes in and helps us with that. So we try to have a well-rounded camp, and the most important thing, it's a free camp.
All right, and tell us again one more time about the luncheon, date, time, and place.
Okay, the luncheon again will be held August 8th at Paradise, their grand ballroom, which is at where the hotel is, and the time is noon to about 1:30. Keynote speaker will be Sam Big Smooth Perkins, played 17 years in the NBA, and also played with Michael Jordan at North Carolina. And our outstanding Lifetime Achievement Award will go to McFarland A. Bragg.